Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious with Alex Karl. He is in Cologne, Germany, and we're going to hear about his job as a contractor for the European Space Agency as a Eurocom. Alex, how are you?
Hello,
Greetings.
Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Well,
Happy
we're
to be here.
thrilled to have you. We are bridging the space across the ocean for the first time on a Google Meets call, and everything looks nice and clear. And thanks to Marty Winkle, my co-producer, working our Streamlabs here, and we had Trekkie Techie Jessica in here helping Marty and I get this thing up. But Alex, we're so excited to talk to you about your job, and we met when you were here in November for the launch of the Crew 3 that has one of your astronauts on it. And we're going to talk about all that. But tell us a little bit about how you are, what's it like in Cologne, Germany today, and or you're there at night. What time is it there, for example?
It's 10 p.m. So
Okay.
it's dark, and we're still in winter. So it was a bit stormy today, rainy, cold. So I'm looking forward to better weather.
We're going to see a picture of where you live, and behind me is actually the European Space Agency facility there, which also includes the training for the ESA astronauts. He's going to tell us a little about that, and uh, just what tell us a little bit about how you got into this career that you're doing, and sort of the flow of your hours. This gentleman talks to the European astronauts on the space station. Tell us a little about how you got into that, Alex.
Yeah. So let me go back. So I'm a big space nerd since I'm little. So watch Star Trek and everything. And after high school, I ended up studying aerospace engineering. And I had a job at a research institute for a year. They were building a subsystem for the Herschel satellite, actually, that went to L2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a job in Belgium as a operations engineer, and that's kind of how um, my work with the International Space Station started. So in Europe, instead of one distributed control center like in the US, you have Houston for the mission control center, and also Huntsville, where all the payloads are coordinated from.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, it's more distributed. Like we had 8 to 10 countries who had a USOC, it's called, the User Support and Operations Center. And the different ESA payloads are kind of distributed over those centers. And I ended up in the one in Belgium, in Brussels to be exact. So I worked there for 10 years on payload operations. And since 2 years, 2.5 actually now, I moved to the European Astronaut Center that we can see in your background in Cologne. And from there, the Eurocoms work from there. So that's somewhat the equivalent to the American Capcoms. So we are the only position on the European side that talk to crew, and we take care of all crew interactions that are using European equipment. So and we also have some tasks associated to the BME position, so biomedical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that the Capcoms at NASA do not do, because they do have the dedicated BMEs.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a task we took over a couple of years, and so we're now the eyes and ears of the flight surgeons as well when we have ESA crew member on board.
Which tell us the member that you do have on board of our Expedition 66. We'll see a picture of him here in a minute.
Yeah. So right now we have Matthias Maurer up there. He's a European astronaut with German nationality, and he's been up there as part of Crew 3 for his Cosmic Kiss mission since November, and he'll stay up there until about end of April.
And that's when we're going to see Karl again when they launch up Crew 4 with another European astronaut, I assume. You know?
Yes, in April, Samantha Cristoforetti will
Oh,
be launching.
really? Oh,
She's
cool.
Italian, and she will go on her second trip to the ISS.
And she spent 6 months or something up there on her first. You saw her on our wall of lady astronauts up there,
Yeah, she
Alex.
almost has 200 days there. She has
Yeah.
199 days and a couple of hours. So
Wow. That's uh, are your European astronauts part of the Artemis program? I think they're all NASA right now, but there's some Artemis. Would she be one of the Artemis people?
that's a good question. So the Artemis astronauts I think they're all NASA,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, it's an international program. So, for example, you probably know on Artemis 2, there will be a Canadian astronaut flying along around the moon. And I have not heard any specifics on which mission Europeans will be there, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that as part of the whole agreements that we have, that the plan is to fly 3 European astronauts, and probably some of them will also go to the moon. So
Wow. Exciting times, isn't it, Alex? To be,
definitely,
and
definitely.
you're at the right age that you're going to live some real history here in the next 10 to 15 years. This is very sweet for you guys. I mean, not just the first woman and the first person of color, but the first Europeans on the moon. And boy, is Germany, France, Italy going to claim that? That'll be fun. See you all fight over that.
I'm not sure that it's so much a fight between the nations. I think we're in that aspect we're really working together. So I would be happy no matter what nationality it is,
Mhm.
but as long as because we are putting Europeans there. I mean, also the team I work in, we're all international, so from different countries in Europe. So I don't think at least for me, the nationality doesn't matter.
Well, of course,
We want to work
that's what
together.
everybody says, but our states in America are quite proud of our astronauts, and I happen to be from Ohio, where Neil Armstrong grew up. So you want to claim a little bit of piece of
Um,
the action there. But no, we
yes,
completely understand, and that's what's so beautiful about what you see at the International Space Station is the cooperation of all these countries in there.
right.
And
But you do make a good point because the national agencies they are very happy to have one of their own up there. So and
mm-hmm.
they use that to do special programs and PR activities in their own country. So that will definitely make a difference whether the person is from Germany, Italy, France,
Mm-hmm.
Denmark, or the UK. That's probably where our seasoned astronauts are from, and it's most likely that the first European on the moon will be from one of those countries.
Well, we know one of our Stay Curious premier watchers, Robert Law in Dundee, Scotland's hoping for somebody in that neck of the woods to go up there. And we appreciate everybody watching our program here on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, and Spotify. We're talking to Alex Karl, who is the European Space Agency, Eurocom. He's going to tell us in a little bit about talking to the European astronauts and their which modules they're in. We'll find all that out about there, and we're going to hear a little bit about Cosmic Kiss, which is the mission of Matthias Maurer. That's how his name is, Mattias, and of course I would call that Matthias, but it's Matthias. Is that how you say his first name?
Matthias.
Matthias. Okay, and we'll see some pictures of him and talk a little more about what Alex does, but. Of course, Alex, I told you we want to celebrate here at the American Space Museum and our Stay Curious program. We can't not mention today in space history 11 years ago was this beautiful launch of Discovery on its 33rd and final mission to space. I think it's 33. Don't hold. It's 133 is the mission. I think it had 38 missions to space, actually. I got to consult the scroll. And I'll tell you that here in a minute. And Marty's bringing over me a couple names to shout out. Pardon me? I want to see what you were saying. Oh, thank you. And the scroll here on 133, my shuttle scroll I'm showing here, That was the 39th flight of Discovery, the most of any of the orbiters, 39. And that is a shot by one of our supporters, and Mark Usiak took this beautiful photograph. And here Mark took the crew going out to the to the launch, and of course that's an easy one to find here at the bottom. There we had Lindsay was the commander. The African American is Drew, and he's the last African American to go to space until Victor Glover did. A 9-year gap there. Bowen, Barrett, and Nicole Stott there, friend of our museum, Nicole, on there. Bowen was chosen, he flew on STS-132 and then was chosen to go on this third mission when I forget the astronaut that had a bicycle accident and couldn't go. That was only the first time that an astronaut had flown back-to-back. He flew 132 and 133, Bo did. So, Bowen, I mean. And there is Nicole. Had to get a good shout out to her. She's been such a great supporter of our museum. Alex, we had Nicole Stott here to do a book signing of her wonderful book, Return to Earth, that's more about global warming and solutions to it. And she signed over 70 books here at an event we had, Alex. So if you haven't seen that book by her, you ought to pick it up. It's not an astronaut biography. It's more of people she's met along the way and how she became more aware of that global warming and the environment globally needs to be addressed soon. And there's a picture I'm showing of you and me when we met in front of the Gemini 2 out there. You and I took you a little tour around our Space View Park. What did you think of that tour? You still remember those handprints of those astronauts in bronze?
Oh, I definitely do. That was a great trip, Mark. So thanks again for showing me that. Otherwise, I probably would have missed it.
Yeah, well, this is how we were founded. And the marble slat behind myself and Alex there has names of Gemini contractor workers that are etched there. And we'd like to take more, but we need to have them batched because it's very expensive just to do 5 or 6 on that marble because it's hard to find someone to do it. But there's a good picture of you and me last November when we launched the Expedition 3 up to space, and now I'm showing the Rhine River. Boy, that is a winding, snaking river through Cologne, Germany there. The white area to the far right is the airport. You guys aren't too far from the airport, are you?
That is right. The airport is right next to us.
Yeah.
And we do hear the airplane sometimes. But it's also very convenient. When our astronauts come back, that's where they land. So they don't have it far to their home base.
So how big a city is Cologne?
Cologne, I think, is like the 4th biggest city of Germany, if I remember correctly, and it's scratching at the million mark.
Okay, I wonder if it was a half a million or a million. So it is one of the big centers, of course, in there. So how long have you lived there? You grew up where, Alex? Actually,
I grew up about an hour from there near Düsseldorf.
Okay.
And
saying Dusseldorf. That's fun to say. Dusseldorf. Okay.
Yeah. And Cologne, I'm working there since about 2.5 years.
Uh-huh. So it was a city like the family went to for good times or take the kids to attractions or science museums were in your life back then or no?
Less in Cologne, I think. I mean, we had the odd school trip here. I mean, it's an old Roman city, so there's a good Roman museum in town.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm sure some of our Stay Curious visitors have been to Germany and visited your fine city there, and it's a beautiful satellite image as you see there, and quite a winding river in there. There's a lot of bends in there. So I bet that's a beautiful scenery it's got to be along that
Definitely.
river. So.
It's one of the bigger rivers, and it's lovely. Mm-hmm. It's almost through the whole country.
Well, I'm showing the picture now of the SpaceX Crew 3 that went to space. We have Raj Chari was the commander, and he's up there now. Thomas Mashburn, let's see, Chari, yeah, Mashburn is the far right, and Mowers is the first one on the second left, and then you've got um, Kayla Barron. Kayla Barron, one of the lady astronauts up there, who is a Artemis astronaut. So we got their official picture there, but now I'm showing another one, Alex. They're a lot more relaxed. They're sitting on a vehicle out at the pad. It looks like a Jeep with their feet kicked up. I think you see those pictures I sent you there.
Yeah, I
And
think that was during training when
mm-hmm.
they would have a launch aboard and they leave the capsule and then they have an armored vehicle waiting for them to take them away. So I think that's the only time they look that relaxed if they really would need to use it.
Exactly. That's a cool picture. I like showing pictures that they don't normally show of astronauts that are kicking back. And tomorrow we will have Triple T, Travis Thompson, to tell us tales from the White Room. Alex, I don't think you met him, but he was the astronaut closeout crew lead that put the astronauts in the space shuttle back in the day. And we always are looking forward to Travis. And for our regular viewers, he's been a little under the weather, but he's been given a tour today with a group of people that we're blessed to have in our museum. And he said he'll be fine to talk about STS-133 tomorrow, as well as 75, which was launched a few years ago yesterday with that was the mission with the tethered satellite that they drug for about 20 miles and create electricity. Here is Matthias Maurer there with his name, how you spell it there, and he's got his arm folded in his blue suit there, Alex, and he's inside your facility there.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Cosmic Kiss, and this is the. Well, let me first ask you. I've seen some pictures online. It appears like you get to meet the astronauts, and they're pretty accessible to people like yourself in your little campus there. Am I right?
Yeah, they have an office like everybody else. So if they're not in training somewhere in Houston or around the world, and they're at their office, you meet them in the hallway in the cafeteria. Of course, now during COVID, it's a bit different again, but that's basically their place of work where they have their office.
Yeah, so it's fun to develop relationships with these people and getting to know them a little bit, of course. Here is the Cosmic Kiss artwork, and you gave myself and Marty each a patch with this. So explain this to our Stay Curious viewers.
Yeah. So every ESA astronaut, once they're assigned to a mission, they can choose their own mission name and logo. So Matthias chose Cosmic Kiss and this logo, and I'll try to explain a little bit what it means. One, it's derived from the Nebra sky disk, which is I'm trying to remember. On the top of my head, I have 8,000 years, but I might be off by 1,000 years. So it's about 8,000 years old. It's an artifact that was found in southern Germany, if I remember correctly. And that actually has a depiction of the sky on there. So there's a moon. So it's very similar to what you can see here on this logo, like the disk on the left and the moon shape on the right. With the stars that's actually on this disc from prehistoric times. I'm not sure what it used to, but I'm sure you can Google it.
Yeah, way cool. No, yeah, it's one of the first times a human has put the sky on something. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's made from really precious material. I'm not sure if there's actually gold in there, but it's definitely some metal artwork. So it's quite remarkable. And so Matthias wanted to bridge basically the past and the future, and also his longing to go to space. And then what you see in between is the human heartbeat, and also the little red thing you see there. That's the ISS in heart shape. That's the idea there to symbolize the love for space, and that's also where the name Cosmic Kiss comes from. It's like a declaration of love to space.
That is so cool. And ISS is in KISS, of course. and you see the heartbeat, the white lines of the beating there, and that's it's so simple yet like all space artwork involved in space missions, there's usually a lot of meaning inside of them there. Uh, Sweet. We're talking with Alex Karl. He is Eurocom for the European Space Agencies, coming here on Stay Curious, bridging the Atlantic Ocean to us here, not just space, from Cologne, Germany. Alex, we've got a question. Our Capcoms in NASA are all astronauts. So, are you an astronaut? And if not, what are the qualifications to be a European Capcom? And Marty, I think that's his curious question.
All right, that's a good question, Mark. And let me add that most of the Capcoms at NASA are still astronauts, but they also started to have non-astronauts work the job. We, on the other hand, obviously, we do not have as many astronauts as NASA does. We do have a couple of astronauts who used to be Eurocoms. Matthias, for example, he used to be a Eurocom before he became an astronaut. So he has been in, I think 8 years ago, he did the same job as I'm doing right now. So with some luck, I'm going to space in 8 years.
Have you talked to each other? Did he give you any tips or anything about that?
Not specifically about that. I met with him before his mission because he knew he would be working with me. And since I joined late and he was in training, we didn't have much chance to interact beforehand. So he invited me over actually when he was training in Houston, and I was there for Eurocom training myself with the Capcoms to just get to know each other for an hour and just,
Beautiful.
Start a working relationship so we can work better together once he's up in space then.
You're his contact with humans on Earth then as the Eurocom then. So.
Often throughout the day, me or my colleagues, yes. We're the voice from home.
That's cool. That's good.
Coming
go ahead.
To your question in terms of the qualifications. So it's so our Eurocom team is actually built up from members of 3 different teams we have there in Cologne. One is the astronaut operations. That's what I work, and that's actually what brings me to Florida as part of the crew support. We have a training division who train the astronauts, and that's also when NASA or international partners are coming to Cologne so they can train with the European systems. And we have the medical branch. So we have all the flight surgeons here and the folks who do the exercises for our ESA crew members. And from those 3 branches, our team is composed. So we have a lot of background knowledge and cover a broad field, which comes in handy when working with the crew.
And interesting, like you said, you are part of the medical team.
As a Eurocom, yes, we cover the biomedical part, so as the eyes and ears of the flight surgeons. But
okay.
We are not. They're specialists, even more specialized in the medical operations. But we all need to know some part that are related to the space station. What's happening there?
Okay. Well, let's let me go to the pictures here, and we've got a picture of you sitting at our shuttle console control there. Acting like you're talking to someone on the phone there, which is fun to do, and then we're going to show the kind of the workings of your office. I hope, or if I picked out the right pictures there. But looking at this equipment from 1990s and so forth, how'd that strike you in our museum here that we have this?
I mean, your museum is great. I mean, it's full of history, really. It's especially space history. So as I said, I'm a huge space nerd. So I love being around this stuff. And you usually only see it like on television or the internet nowadays. And just sitting there and seeing it. And the biggest contrast to what we're working with today is just the sheer size.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, you got all this condensed into things. Like we have a iPhone 4 up there or something that says the iPhone 4 has more power, like 600 times more than this what you're
yeah.
looking at there. So, sweet, good. Well, let's look at your office here a little bit. I've got the area, the overhead view, looking at some of your training modules there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a view of our training hall. So we have obviously mock-up of the European Columbus module, so we can train our astronauts and the international partner astronauts on our systems. And we also have a section of the ATV. The ATV. Europe used to build the ATV, the automated transfer vehicle.
mm-hmm.
That is not flying anymore, but the technology is used now as the service module of Orion. So that's a collaboration between NASA and ESA.
That is a big part of our Orion space program. Is that the Orion spacecraft is the conical spacecraft, and below it is the barrel of that you guys have built. That has the
Yeah,
avionics, the life support systems, communication. So, actually, the Orion vehicle is a multinational vehicle.
it definitely is. And that technology is derived from the ATV, which we use to ferry cargo to the ISS. And we
So,
still have a mock-up from this one.
so everyone knows that the incredible International Space Station orbits the Earth 17 times a day, every 90 minutes. But we have different segments of this station where the astronauts they spend most of their time. We have Destiny Lab for America, Kibo for Japan, the Russian, the new one that they just brought up, Naku, no,
Okay.
Nauka. And so, tell us the name of of your module, and how the astronaut or your European astronauts are accommodated there.
Yeah. So the European module is called Columbus. That has historical reasons. The original plan was to get it launched in 1992 for the 500-year anniversary of Columbus discovering America.
Mm-hmm.
That got delayed a little bit. We just had, I think, in 2 weeks ago, we had our 14th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. I think back in 2008 in February, it was launched and
Okay.
attached. Um,
It's a long time for hardware in space, folks, and we have occupied continuously the space station for 21 years. Isn't that interesting to think about, Alex, that a 20-year-old person has never lived a moment where we haven't had a human in outer space?
yeah, I think that's awesome. They do live in the future in a
Hmm.
way.
By the way, this place looks spick and span there. You got a good janitorial crew there
We do indeed, yes.
and I'm sure that's important. The Columbus is one of these modules there, I assume, for them to train
Yeah,
in.
let me see.
Is it the one right in the middle?
Looking at no, I think it's just on the right. That's outside the view,
Oh, okay.
or maybe the one in the background. I
Okay.
have a very low resolution
All
picture
right.
here, so
Well, it doesn't matter. But these are the modules that the European astronauts become familiar with on the space station. That's why they're mock-ups for them to train in, correct?
yeah, that's we're the how's it called? They're users and they're specialists, and so depending how much of the system you know, and you always want to have a specialist on board who knows a little bit more about the system. So in case of some major malfunction, you have at least someone who would be able to perform the repairs.
Okay. Well, the next picture I'm going to show is the one with a group of people in front of the Eurocom sign there. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at there. I don't think you're in that picture,
No,
but
that was taken before my time, but I do recognize a lot of my colleagues I work with right now. So
okay.
at least so that's definitely our console. So well,
Looking at,
nowadays it's less
uh-huh.
crowded, but those are yeah, it's a group picture of the Eurocoms a couple of years ago.
Well, the next picture is two Eurocoms, I assume. I thought the one was you in the foreground, but you said it isn't. Looking at the monitors, and you got the decals of the missions on the wall there, just like at
Mhm.
Houston. So this is the nerve center, is it?
Yes, this is pretty much how my workplace looks like in the control room. So we
Mm-hmm.
have on the right, you can see the Vox system. Um, on the US side, it's called device. So that's where our voice loops are in. And we can listen to, well, we have access to certain voice loops, and that's how we communicate with our counterparts at NASA, for example, or most importantly, of course, to space. And then we have the screen, so we keep situational awareness. So we know what's going on the space station.
So there you have a live screen there inside Columbus showing any of the activity that your astronauts would be doing. Is that right?
It depends on the activity, yes,
Sure.
but there are activities for which we activate cameras inside Columbus, but we also have cameras in the lab, for example. So we share that a bit with NASA
Gotcha.
and have
So
different views and get a glimpse what's going on.
I read where Maurer has over 50 experiments on board during his stay up there. So are you saying that some of these experiments are shared like in the Destiny module with the NASA astronauts, or are they all pretty much done in Columbus?
Most of them are done in Columbus. Most of them are done by Maurer.
Hmm.
There are a couple that where also the American astronauts are participating in. There are medical experiments, for example, and of course, before the flight, the scientists offer them, "Hey, we have this experiment. Are you interested to participate?" And some of the U.S. astronauts,
So Caleb
are,
Barron might be participating, or Mark Van de High, or something like that
uh,
in
yes,
your
for
area there.
example, yeah, we had one experiment with Raja and Kayla the other day.
Hmm.
Were they participating? Um, so
Great.
it depends. Most are
Well,
on Matthias, but
well, this is the fascinating part here, talking to Alex Karl about his job. So let's talk a little bit about how you punch the clock. Are you have Eurocoms like yourself? How many are there active? Do you rotate out in an 8-hour shift? Uh, is it the same hours? Trying to give us an idea of what your flow is like, and when you come to work, do you start check in with Maurer or whoever you need to check in with up there? How does that go?
yeah. So let me tell you about today, for example. So
Great, perfect.
I had the Orbit One shift today, so early in the morning. Well, for Houston, it's even earlier because there it starts around midnight local time. So there, for me, my 7 a.m. is a bit more accommodating to the sleeping rhythm. So I arrive at work, I log into my console, I check in with my call flight. So we have nobody there at night, at least in Cologne. We do have, so as I mentioned, in Europe, the control centers are a bit distributed, but that's mainly for payloads. We have one central control center that's in Oberpfaffenhofen near Munich. There is where the Columbus systems are being monitored from. And that one is staffed 24/7. We have the Columbus flight director there. We have a position that's called Stratos. They're taking care of all the electrical and life support systems and so on. And we do have a ground controller, a GC, who takes care of connections to the ground and computer things and so on. And they're the only ones also working at night. Back in the early days of the Columbus program, almost everybody was on 3 shifts a day, but because of budget and efficiency reasons, things got merged or cut. So
Hmm.
that's the situation we're in. So what we have now is on the crew work days, we Eurocoms sit on console always in Orbit One to perform timeline reviews and other things that need to be done. And then, of course, we support any ESA experiments that might be ongoing. And in Orbit 2, we are either on call or we are on console supporting if there are activities that use European equipment or need other support from our side. And usually on the weekends we're off, but it depends. Sometimes that can shift because of launch and landing. There might be sleep shift, and then we also can support during the night or the weekends if it's a crew working day and ESA equipment is used.
Very interesting. Do you relay messages from family members? Or do they
No,
come in
this
and
is
talk to
more.
them directly, or sorry,
No,
at a
this is
facility?
more crew. This is more a crew support task, and which I'm also working, so I can give you an answer how that works. So the crew has a weekly family conference, and we interact with we bridge basically the family and the NASA BMEs. They're in charge of scheduling the private conferences. So they give us a couple of options for the weekend. We transfer that to the family. They select a slot that fits for them, and then we go back to NASA and tell them, here, the family has selected this time slot. Let's say, I don't know, Sunday in the afternoon at 3, and then that gets scheduled. And then the crew member just sees on his or her timeline, now there's my call with my family set up. And then they dial in and they have their video call and have that little private conversation once a week. They do, of course, and that's with video, and they can call via the IP phone whenever they like, but that's the only video communication they have.
Well, let's talk. That's fascinating. If we have any questions, Marty, you can, or comments, he'll get them to me there. We're talking with Alex Karl, who is right in the middle of the International Space Station and what's going on there for our European partners up there. Thank you, Marty. We want to give some shout outs there that we got. Ophelia Sauterel. She's watching us from Normandy, France. We appreciate that. Dave Stang is in Michigan. Mark Usiak's in Pennsylvania. We shout out to Robert Law in Scotland. Christopher Mick is in Wisconsin. Carlton Bailey, we had an excellent program with you, Carlton, yesterday. Go check that out. He was a launch photographer, Alex, that has photographed over 600 launches. Ashley Kendrick. Hello, Ashley. Thank you for watching. Hope everything's going great in Tennessee. And my boss, Karen Conklin. Can't miss, you met Karen, I think, Alex, when you were here. We've got a question here. Does Japan, Canada, and all other nations have their own Eurocoms or Copcoms? Excellent question.
Yes, that's a good question. So let's start. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is so the Canadians basically shared with Capcom in Houston. So it's usually Canadian astronauts or who are doing Capcom for, I don't want to say for Canada, but they happen to be Canadians and are assigned Capcom. They do that from Houston. The other partners like Russia and Japan, they have, like we do, their own control center in Moscow and in Scuba. And they do have a equivalent position there that talks to the astronauts.
Very good. Well, let's get into a little bit about the space station. First, I got to ask you this for it pops in my head. We know there's a conflict going on with Russia in the world. Is there something, what can you tell us about how that affects the Russians and you got your astronaut up there and us up there? What, have you been told anything, or is everything status quo?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because my only interaction with crew today was actually with our Russian colleague Anton up there. He was performing an experiment in Columbus. We do have cooperation with the Russians on some experiments, and today was one of those days. And it's what the work on the space station in regard to that, there's no difference. We all work for the same cause. We are partners, so that doesn't affect the daily working as such. my boss, so the head of the European Astronaut Center, he sent around an email today to everybody and said like, hey, we know what's going on and we are very concerned, but we also want to stress the fact that we are working on the International Space Station. And he talked to the head of Roscosmos, not the head, but of the astronaut section, or his Russian counterparts and his trying to remember with who else he talked, probably the American counterpart, and they all agree that they're trying to prove or to show the world that for 20 years we have been working successfully together in space and intend to do so, or continue to do so. So it was just stressed that that's a partnership and that's working well. And yes, there may be problems on the ground and there may be disagreements, but in space we're trying to stay on the same side. So,
well, thank you, Alex. Right there, Stay Curious fans, is breaking news that could be on national TV here from someone that's dealing with the space station that says, that's amazing. I'm just that's your boss is saying everything's going to be status quo. We'll get along up here if we can't get along on the ground. You have two cosmonauts up there, Anton Shrekperlova. I can't pronounce things right there. Anton and Peter are up there. Duprov. I can say Duprov, but I can't pronounce the other gentleman's name. Shrekperlov. And of course, we got the ESA up there, and then you've got 4 NASA astronauts up there. And they all have to depend on each other, don't they, Alex?
Oh, definitely, yes.
But that awesome. Thank you for sharing that. This is a fluid thing going on up there. And
yeah, maybe one thing just I'd like to add just for awareness in terms of working together. I think the date is currently the 30th of March. That's when Mark Vande Hei will be coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, he's almost, I don't know if he broke the record yet, but he's on his way to break the record.
He'll be over 11, Christina Cook's record he'll break, yeah.
Yeah, I think when he's coming back, he's at 355 days, if I remember correctly. And he flew with the Russians on the Soyuz, and he's coming back with the Soyuz, so that means he will land in Kazakhstan.
Ooh, didn't think about it that way. So the 2 Russians are coming back with him, and Mark Vande Hei. We'll see a picture of him here in just a second. I think I got queued up. Actually, well, let's look at that next here, Marty. There's the there we go. There's our Route 66 is what that sign is, if you didn't know, Alex. That's the famous highway in America, the first road to go to the West Coast. Route 66 goes from New York to California, Marty? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the emblem is shaped like the sign there. Vande Hei is on the far right, one of NASA's most experienced astronauts there, and Caleb Barron's right beside him there. And you've got your guy is middle left there. So talk about, let's just say Matthias wants to go. I'm going to go over and visit the Japanese segment for a while, which there's no Japanese up there. So is anybody working in Kibo? Is a question.
Yeah. Yes, actually they do, because Kibo is full of great experiments as well, and even that's part of the whole collaboration thing. So even if there's no European on board or no Japanese, the agencies still have a certain percentage of crew time they can use to do science. So it won't, in that case, it would then be probably an American astronaut, but they would then do science for Europe or for Japan based on this whole agreement, how the space station is set up.
That's awesome. That's really neat, because Kibo's got this outside porch that they can put things on, of course, with a robotic arm and all that stuff to do that. So, well, let me ask you a little bit of gossip that I know our Stay Curious listeners are about. You and I talked about this when we were here. I'm going to ask you about the Russian actress and the film director that went up there. and you told me that they were a little bit restricted of where they could go. To talk about
Um,
that experience of sending, and then we've had another space tourist go up there for 10 days. How does that sit with you and your bosses, and how are they handled up there?
um, where to start? So, um, obviously, those tourists, they're all, um, well, so they're mainly launching with, or the two you mentioned, the
Actress and
director and the
film director.
actress, and then the two Japanese space tourists who were just up there. They flew with the Russians. Now, of course, end of March, the Axiom 1 mission is scheduled to launch, and that's flying with SpaceX. So it's definitely opening up the ISS for commercialization, which I think in general it's great. The more space we do, the better. I think it benefits all of us. I know there might be some concerns in terms of, oh, it's getting a bit crowded on the station, and our crew members might be a little bit distracted, and that might impact the amount of science we can do. Um, but I don't know if that's true or not, but I could imagine that some people would think that. Um, and I think this is then reflected in what I told you about the Russian actress and Russian director, for example. I saw a message that was sent to the crew where it was outlined, because of course there was an agreement between NASA and Roscosmos in terms of resource allocation. What can those visitors use? What can they not use? And especially for the movie makers, because I think they also shot a scene in the cupola. So that was all pre-coordinated and arranged, and they agreed to that they could shoot their movie a couple of hours also in the US segment, but otherwise it was made clear that they mainly film in the Russian segment. And then I think they just laid down some rules of the land to say, like, okay, please don't go on your own into the American module, because they're not trained. People might do experiments that could get disturbed, but if somebody invites you, then of course you can come over, but so just a little basic outlines what is okay and what not.
That's what I found interesting, Alex, was you just don't go up there and say, "Hey, show me the cupola." Oh, all right, now I want to see Kibo. Let's go over to Destiny. No, it doesn't work like that, right? This is
No, exactly. Especially if you're first time flyer and just arrived there, you still have to get used to microgravity and might hold on to things left and right. And if you're not trained, you don't know which button you might press by accident. So just to avoid that, I mean, most buttons are protected against that sort of thing. But to be on the safe side, you want to make sure, stay where you were trained at and know your way around. And then if somebody shows you around, great. But it's not like you can go where you want if you're a tourist. If you're a trained astronaut, you can go where you want, of course.
But if you're up there as a tourist, you've got some you have an agenda that you want to pull off up there, obviously. And but I just find that fascinating. Yes, that they and you kind of get involved in that and hear the back talk and so forth of people of these tourists up there. So it's a coming thing. What do you
Yeah,
think about NASA saying that they're going to deorbit in maybe 10 years, the space station?
as long as they're every 3 years, they kept extending for 2 years, I'm happy. So.
Yeah.
But of course, eventually the equipment will break, and I think it will get difficult at some point to keep it running in a decent shape and form. So I think the day eventually will come that we will move somewhere else, and
The
at
moon,
least
the moon. We're going to the
the moon.
moons where we're
Exactly.
talking about
That's where
somewhere
we're
else
going.
we're going. And here
Yeah.
I've got a photograph here towards the end of our conversation with Alex Karl. Behind me, folks, is where he works, the European Space Agency in Cologne, Germany. And here we've got I pulled this off the website and told you I did. This is this is in your facility there. It's their Luna, all caps Luna facility. Tell us what we're looking at here, Alex.
Yes, so this is still an artist illustration, as Luna is still being built. It's brand new. I think it's supposed to open, I'm not sure if end of this year or maybe next year. But we have all the approvals, and everything is ready for it to get built. And as the name suggests, it will be a lunar analog, where we can train our and also international partner astronauts on how to live and work on the moon. There will be a huge sandbox filled with lunar Regulus simulants. And I think they also have some cranes where they can attach the backpacks of the astronauts too, so they can simulate the reduced gravity. And they can test technologies like rovers or other equipment in somewhat realistic setting. They can play with the lights, so they can simulate the lighting conditions on the moon and things. So I heard great things about it, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to being able to use it.
You might get to play in that sandbox, huh?
Who knows? I wouldn't mind.
Who knows? Well, we've had a great conversation here with Alex Karl. He's in Cologne, Germany. He works in this building behind me here. Boy, some kind of breaking news there, which Dave Stang, who's in Michigan, is following up a little bit, that he just wanted to know what were your thoughts about any added stress on the crews with what is going on with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. Any?
I would have to speculate here, as obviously that the personal opinion of the crew, I think, is not. I mean, they don't tell us when they do the experiments, but I can imagine that it's adding some sort of stress. But I guess the at least among the crew, I think they're fine. I mean, they've been up there for at least 4 months together, if not longer. So they have trained for years together. So I think they're like family to each other.
Yeah, they're certainly bonded over the time.
Yes.
Certainly, yeah.
So I doubt there's any inward pressure with the astronauts. I can more assume that it might be some sort of outward pressure, like they might get asked in the next PO event or something. But I don't think among each other. I have no doubt that they're still doing great together.
Good. And of course, I got to remind our watchers that for 10 years, America depended on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft to go to the International Space Station that we built with over 35 shuttle missions, hard hat missions up there. So, but great. I think that we're getting some wonderful breaking news here from you, Alex, of how people feel about it, because people in the business or outside, like our museum is, know that international cooperation is a no-brainer when you leave the Earth and you're in space, because you all depend on each other for not just that emergency, but also to, like you said, sharing the experiments, helping do experiments, adding to your database with other astronauts participating, even in modules that there's no Japanese astronaut up there. So I found that interesting. They didn't close the door on it, that there were people are going and doing things on that. So, Alex, there's a lot we could ask you, and we will next time we visit with you here right beside me in our studios here at the American Space Museum, because you said you're going to be here. The next launch is planned for April 15th, the next Crew 4 mission, and that's a Friday, and we're going to have one heck of a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Space Shuttle on Saturday, the 16th. So I hope that works out, that you can enjoy that. Alex, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our viewers, not just here in America, but around the world?
As you said, there's so much we could still talk about. So not sure if there's anything specific that comes to mind right now.
Okay.
Um,
Well, you've got a good job. I'll bet a few people would like to have your job. And I'm so excited for you because you're going to talk to people on the moon one day, I'm convinced. And did you ever think that through?
um, Not fully, but I like the idea. I hope we land soon enough that I'm still there.
Well, we like the idea too, Alex, of that. So, well, with that, we'll have you back. I would love to ask you more about some of the missions that you were involved in, but we've gone almost an hour here, and you've been up since 7 o'clock in the morning, so or before that. I appreciate you spending your evening in Germany with us here at the American Space Museum. So,
Yeah,
Alex,
it was my pleasure, Mark. I'm happy to do this again. I'm looking forward to do this in person. And
well, we're very happy how well this has come off. Thank you, our Trekkie Techie Jessica Galloway, for making it simple for Marty to get into the Streamlabs program we're doing there. That's how we're doing it, making it look like a news broadcast. Alex is with a program called Streamlabs, so it's just been fabulous. We appreciate everybody participating. Alex, thank you so much for being willing to do this, and we can't wait to see you again. And tomorrow we will be coming back with Triple T. Travis Todd Thompson is ready to share a little bit about that last mission of discovery, which is now sitting over at the Udvar Hazy Center of the Smithsonian over in Washington, D.C. So until then, thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us.